Let's come back home to the big story within the Nigeria space, because Mr. President made history today by signing into operations the new Petroleum Industry Act of 2021, bringing to a close the country's 20-year search for an omnibus legislation to catalyze new investments, take care of the host communities, and open new vista in the hydrocarbon industry. But there is more on the macro side than the PIB. As Tosin Osunkoya, co-managing partner at Comercio Partners, joins me now for this two-part conversation. Great to have you on the show this evening, Tosin, joining me from our studios in Lagos.
Good to be here, Boasin. Thank you. Good evening.
By press sign, I decided to be here in Abuja on the day Mr. President signed the PIA. So, congratulations to Mr. President and everyone. Tosin, give me your first word, your first future-forward comment on this new Petroleum Industry Act now it has been signed on into operations by Mr. President.
If I crave your indulgence, I will not use the word. I'll call it a historic event. This is a long time coming. We've been on it for almost 2 decades now. So I'm sure everybody is excited that, yes, it has finally come to, to fruition.
But again, where do we go from here? We've had it signed. The world it's taken us 20 years to come this far. Where do we go next?
I think once it swings into full operation, we begin to see some conversations happening around how investments will begin to move into the country. We've lacked so much investment coming into oil and gas industry. And to put it into perspective, between the years of 2015 and 2019, about $70 billion has come into the African continent in oil and gas space. You cannot believe that what Nigeria has only enjoyed out of the 70 billion is just 4%. I mean, that is so insignificant. We're talking about a country that boasts of, being the biggest oil producer on the continent, and that has the largest, reserves on the continent. So having 4% of that massive amount coming into Nigeria, it is not encouraging at all. So for me, I'm happy that this has been, signed into law, and I'm hoping that, yes, we're beginning to go into full operation. Besides that, it's also going to promote, good governance structure, because what the investors would like to see is that you have all your ducks in a row and ensure that your house is probably put in place before they can come into the country. So going forward, I'm excited about this. We have large dream of achieving about 40, billion reserves in the near future. I'm hoping that we're able to achieve that. We're also having dreams about having 4 million barrels, every day in terms of production. So I'm hoping that we move, our production from 1.7 million barrels to about 4 million barrels per day. I'm excited about all of
this is one big macroeconomic news. Do you think investors will play this particular good news of signing the Petroleum Industry Act into our plan to float the first Eurobond of this year, $6.2 billion before the end of the year? What's your reading at Comercio Partners in terms of the timing and the expected yield of what we expect investors will meet with us when we come to the market? And if this will come in one single bunch or it's going to be in tranches?
I think it's going to be one single bunch. $6 billion. You would say that $6 billion is a lot, considering how much we have outstanding. The amount we have outstanding right now is about 10.6 billion. So if you look at it, we're talking about a single tranche of 60% of what you have outstanding. So I think that the investors really are going to consider the fact that Nigeria has recently, or today, we've passed this, this PIB into law. That would expect, to foster more investment into what we consider to be our golden egg. Don't forget that, yes, oil and gas contributes about 10% to the GDP, but in terms of earnings, it contributes about 90% to our foreign earnings. And when your investors are coming looking at your Eurobond, they look at your ability to repay the amount that you will be borrowing. So if they see some form of investment that will foster more revenue coming in from oil and gas, they will certainly be willing to participate in that auction.
Debt market investors will be focusing on the Eurobond. Give me that in 60 seconds. We'll take a break. We'll have a lot more grounds to cover. Tosin.
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, Tosin, what would they be looking forward to in the Eurobond?
I think likely they will be looking at the yield pickup. I mean, if you look at what happened with the Ghana and Eurobond, it was at a good level. And I think that they will mirror the recent market sentiment. Don't forget also that we have a wall of money. There's a lot of stimulus packages, out there. Those funds, we were looking for the best yield pickup right now. Okay, and I think Nigeria positions itself.
Tosin, hold it a little bit. Let's get a lot of that more covered when we come back. Okay, thanks for standing by. My guest, Tosin Osunkoya, co-managing partner at Comercio Partners. Let's stick with the global marketplace as we count down to the August 25th rollout of the new $650 billion special drawing rights, or SDR, by the International Monetary Fund. Thank you so much, Tosin. Let's conclude on the Nigerian side. If you are international investors, what will be in the Nigeria's Eurobond for you? Let's trash that. Then we'll go to the IMF SDR.
I think for you as an investor, you will look at, like I mentioned earlier on, the ability of the country, to pay back. You will look at the fundamentals and look at the macros of the economy. And I think that, Nigeria, we are in a good stead to be able to pay back whatever we intend to borrow, if we're going to do the 6 billion or even, do it in tranches. But I think that we will certainly attract a lot of interest. The last one we did in 2018, I think it was 3 times oversubscribed. We might experience that this time around, obviously because of the wall of money we have in circulation globally. So I think that our investors would look at the foreign reserves. Our reserves is still, shy of 35 billion. I think also that they will look at the structure that, the country has in place in terms of facilitating, FDIs and FPIs coming into the country. They will also look at the diversification of the economy. We are making, moves into diversifying away from oil to non-oil sector. So they will look at all of that and how that translates to your revenue earnings, your foreign earnings, and that would give them a sense of, how to price your paper. But overall, I think investors will be interested in coming into, the Nigerian Eurobond paper.
Okay, let's have this discussion around the IMF special drawing rights. What's your take at Commercial Partners on how the numbers stack up for sovereigns within the sub-Saharan Africa, and why?
I think, this was set up in 1969. Obviously, it's a way of, being a backup for global crisis. In 2009, I think about $215 billion was released or allocated by IMF. So the SDR is meant to, protect emerging economies and low-income countries against, the backdrop of what has happened post-COVID, and of course the resurgence of COVID. I think that South Africa and Nigeria would clearly benefit a lot more from other countries, from other SSA countries. So I think that Nigeria and South Africa should be about $6 to $7 billion. And the rest of the SSA countries will probably share, a 2/3 of 18 billion that was coming or that have been allocated to the SSA countries.
But here we have, I think, Zambia, which just got a new president, and a female vice president elected would also be here. But what's the global sentiment right now ahead of this IMF SDR allocations? It's going to be kicking in on the 25th of August. That should be sometime next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioning now Zambia. To Zambia, that's a lot of money coming in. I mean, this is a country that has just barely $1 billion, dollars in reserves. So if they are getting a significant amount of money, you can imagine the kind of cushion or accretion that would, give to their reserves. So we are looking out for what, the Zambian economy would look like going forward. And of course, with the election of the new president as well. I don't know if you know, the Zambian paper is actually doing pretty much well in the last few hours. Obviously, investors are beginning to look into that space as well. I think overall, SDR has come with a mixed bag feeling. A mixed bag feeling in the sense that we expect that, yes, the money would come in, but to what level will it, relieve these economies, with the resurgence of, the COVID pandemic? So I don't know to what level, but I think gradually it's going to begin to ease out pressures coming from this crisis. Nigeria alone could easily, get allocated about 3.5 billion. That is a lot of money to our external reserves. And we have about 6 billion coming as well from Eurobond. So my take is before the end of this year, we should be boasting of about $40 billion in reserves. That for me is enough cushion to protect the Naira, enough money also to strengthen the economy. Not only that, when this money is coming, the Eurobond money coming to fund the deficit, the budget deficit, we expect that to go into capital projects, hopefully. And also we expect that to strengthen or cushion the effects of Naira depreciation. So I'm excited about what is going to happen in the next quarter. To us at Commercial Partners, we've always believed that this economy is going to ramp up in the next 2 quarters, this quarter and the next quarter. That's why we are very positive about Nigeria going into, the back end of 2021. Again, if you look at the fact that we are coming out of recession, we are now moving into recovery mode. That again portends a lot of opportunities and potentials for Nigeria going forward.
I was just really looking at your second half report at Commercio Partners. Tosin, you were bullish on the GDP growth expectations for the second half of the year. You were very also talked about the trend of disinflation will continue, as well as the earnings we expected from the first half of the year into the quarter in which investors are beginning to look at how much I've made so far this year, and if I could just begin to take some profit ahead of Christmas and the end of the year. What are the key drivers of this for you?
I think for us, the key drivers are basically, the base effect from last year. We expect the base effect would portend, positive growth going forward. We are coming out of a recovery stage. We're coming out of the pandemic, technically. So we expect that inflation will continue to moderate. We will see inflation, tickle down, gradually, obviously because of the base effect. We expect that before the end of the year, we should see some green harvest, and that would, in a way, ease the pressure on food inflation. Food inflation has always been on the rise. We expect that to moderate as we begin to experience the green harvest. Overall, we think that, yes, we are bullish on Nigeria going into the back end, the last few quarters of this year.
Well, okay, let's leave it there for tonight. We appreciate your outlook. In terms of the earnings, how do you think the market on the equity side will finish off? Let's round it off on that point. How do you think we're doing about a 1.8% negative on the NGX index return so far this year? You think we'll be able to wipe that off this quarter and perhaps end the Q4 on a positive note?
I think it should wipe it off. We are beginning to see some positive earnings coming out of the stock market. I think that we will end in the green, maybe marginally. And I think that's a good sign for 2022. 2022 is the year of, eve of election. Naturally, well, barring the foreign portfolio investors, shy of the Nigerian atmosphere, we expect that 2022 should be a year of, ramp up of good earnings in Nigeria.
Okay, great. I love your optimism. It's kind of infectious. Thank you so much. Bullish on Nigeria. If you have $6.2 billion and $3.5 billion from SDR, then it's a lot of reason to smile, by the way. I know that. I know the feeling. Tosin Osunkoya.
It is a lot of reason to smile for that.
Thank you for your insights tonight. See you next time.